Okay, so we've restarted. I think we're live on YouTube now. LinkedIn didn't work, but
Amazing.
well, we're one step, steps every day. So, I hope everyone is in the chat. I see the numbers are increasing. Um, for the sake of today, I brought on Jeremy because, in full transparency, Andre from our group worked closely with QuickMail since the beginning of the group. Andre Demansky is one of the nicest, sweetest guys in the world. Last time he was in LA from Brazil, I showed him around and had an awesome day. And he spoke so highly of QuickMail for ages, and eventually I checked it out. And like anything, we use all sequencers. And I think it's really important. Like, again, in 2026, love it or hate it, it's going to be important to diversify what you're doing across all sequencers. So, for us, we have Quick Mail, we've got Instantly, we've got Smart Lead, we've got Email Bison, and I love them all the same and for different reasons, right? We see dips in trends and things go up and down, and it's good to be able to move fluidly between those. Now, Quick Mail is the oldest of all of them, and I'm interested. You've got a good story. I think you guys are the first people to do what I call multi-domain, multi-inbox sending. And so long before any other platform was doing it. And now, every platform has grown in different ways. I think QuickMail has some features that other platforms don't. So I want to talk about what the differences are. And I think that people should be thinking about, okay, sometimes I need to move and check out other platforms because each of them kind of have their own fingerprint, if you will. And as some get bigger and reach this critical mass, that fingerprint can come back to bite you in the ass, right? Warm-up pools get compromised, all kinds of different things happen that will start to show, hey, like you got to be careful with what you're doing here. And so all the more reason to be diversified onto every sending platform. So with that being said, Jeremy, super excited to have you. We've got Rohan in the crowd, who is a brilliant boy genius. We've got Andre already dropping some notes. But why don't you give an introduction to QuickMail, and then talk a little bit about some of the differentiators from the other names that are pretty commonly passed around in the space.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Christian. Really pleased to be here. I recognize a few names. I'm pretty happy to see them as well. Thank you, Andre. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm pretty bad at self-promoting. That's probably why you don't hear about QuickMail as much as you hear about other platforms. But we've been around since 2014. Like you mentioned, we invented what we called inbox rotation, which is the ability of having multiple inboxes attached to a single campaign. But we pioneered also a lot of different things. Our main priorities always have been like deliverability, and it reflects in all the features that we've done. So deliverability and managing of multiple accounts at scale, that's always have been the main focus and priorities. And then comes from I've been doing probably 15 years of development before starting QuickMail. And so for me, deliverability was important, but also stability and reliability. So basically, if you count those three things, that's basically what makes QuickMail what QuickMail is. You're mentioning about how we're different in terms of features. Well, we have so when we invented inbox rotation, took 2 years. Took 2 years before other platforms started to sort of start copying that. But right now we do have things that no one copy, and I don't really know why, because they are pretty powerful. One is deliverability AI, which basically automatically switch an inbox that starts to perform badly with another one that actually is as part of your pool. So you determine your pool of inboxes. You say, hey, you can use all the inboxes. I just want 50 for this campaign, and then pick and choose. And then QuickMail every day will kind of check your deliverability and then swap, the inboxes based on which one is not performing as well as the other ones. So that's one thing. Lately, well, it was last year, I think. Still, no one copied it, and I don't understand it. There've been big talk about hey, you should use syntax, and we use syntax from the very beginning. Actually, the syntax was not friendly, but we use it from the beginning. Oh, for those who don't know, I don't know how knowledgeable your audience is. But spin tags is basically the ability to pick up certain sentence instead of other at random. So you end up with like a sort of unique message. In theory, there is a certain number of combination depending on how many spin tags words you have. But last year we had a problem with people on Outlook getting like blocked, and we're like looking, and it's just like they were sending always the same message again and again and again. Even with spin tags, it didn't quite work. So I woke up one night and figured out like, hey, why don't we use actually AI to actually simplify your or ability to create unique messages without losing the meaning. And so we created deliverability AI. And so every email you're sending is unique just because we're using AI to rephrase it. There is no need to maintain those complicated spin taxes. You could just like have your normal messages, and then your A/B test becomes more about your strategy and your approach rather than the actual text. Those are a few examples, but you were mentioning about footprint. I think it's cool that we are, every, especially with Google, so every email that is sent through the Gmail API is leaving a footprint. And usually the footprint is what Gmail API token or API you've been using. And so QuickMail has one, which is official. Lemlist has another one, which is also official. Instantly and Smartly, they're absolutely not official. So they basically create some and then just ask you to, hey, put it as what's listed into your Google workspace. But we went one step further, and we actually just generate one for you. So now when people are using what we call stealth mode on QuickMail, you're actually sending email, but Google has absolutely zero idea what platform is actually sending those emails. So that's another step to decouple, again, things for deliverability. I can go on and on, but
No, I would say
what
this
else do you
just
want to know?
just a note, my audience is all brilliant geniuses. So you're saying, who are you
Nice.
speaking to? You're speaking to handsome, charming, brilliant geniuses, female and male, and they're all wonderful.
Love it.
So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, let's keep going down that road. It's a little early to be drinking a margarita, but I guess you're in France, so that's
It's
cool.
grapefruit, dude. Come on, grapefruit and water. That's all it is.
Um,
If I was
Andre said
drinking
that you
alcohol, I probably wouldn't be there.
Yeah. No, let's keep talking about these things that these features that you guys have that are ahead of the curve, or things, same vein, things that you need to be thinking ahead of the curve to be successful. Because I don't know if anyone else has felt it, but like even Google's gotten like much more difficult in the past 2 weeks since before Thanksgiving, Black Friday. We're having deliverability issues with Google. Outlook is finicky as hell, really difficult, and SMTP is not performing as well as we'd like it to right now, and so we're having issues across the board. Sorry, Swiss French, my apologies.
Oh, it
Um,
doesn't matter. I'm buff, but that's fine.
yeah, so let's talk about other features, and then you guys also have some built-in like LinkedIn stuff. So yeah, let's just keep talking about it. I think it's really interesting hearing you talking about these things that uh,
Yeah.
we don't really get in the weeds to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and this really helps us, right?
Well, I'm happy to help. Like I can also tell you, how things are born, like how inbox rotation was born, and all those other tools. But they always come like talking to your user and figuring out. So one thing we figured out 2 years ago already is that email results are going a little bit down, and my goals always have been like, how can we help people to sell more? Like how can we help them to get more bookings? That's really what we're thinking, and deliverability was and always has been like a big part of it, for sure. But recently I figured like, hey, it seems like LinkedIn is hot. There may be actually a time to actually do LinkedIn automation as part of the tool. And so we did. And so we added actually LinkedIn automation. And so now you can have like this multi-platform conversation. And then I figured, and basically that works way better, right? So, according to stats, you get better results on LinkedIn than you get on emails these days. That's not a real surprise, and I've always been a big fan of small campaigns because you can target better and then get a better strategy for targeting your audience and therefore getting more results, which is hard for an agency. I get it, because every client is a little bit different, and then you have to make the pros and cons of having something a bit more cookie cutter versus having something a bit more personalized with, how much you charge and how competitive you are. So I get it, it's very difficult, but adding like multiple channels, really, really helpful. And from what I can tell from the stats is basically LinkedIn is actually working better than email is. Now, why is that? I don't think it's just purely due to deliverability, but also market saturation. Like at some point, people think like, I received like 5 emails. I'm not even like wants to read them. Like people are just getting like fatigue of even looking at their inboxes. So they're way less patient when it comes to, pitching stuff. And so that's why we added LinkedIn, proved to be working pretty well. And then lately I figured like, hey, that's fine, but it's kind of like annoying to have to put up, LinkedIn profiles, from Apollo or all those kind of like platform. And I don't really like the targeting and how it's done and so on. So because I'm using like Sales Navigator, we actually did like an automatic import from Sales Navigator. I was talking to Jack as well, who is owning a lead generation agency as well. For which I do podcast with actually every week. So we got like more than 450 episodes or something like that. So it's just like 8 years in the making at one a week. But so he was telling like he really is really strong on using LinkedIn for delivering leads. And I'm like, okay, well let's investigate LinkedIn. And so I use actually Sales Navigator to automatically filter my stuff, but there is a couple of cool things you could do. Like within 5 minutes, I created like a campaign that worked like gangbuster. So basically I go into my LinkedIn Navigator, I say, hey, I want, a certain type of people, yada, yada, yada. And then I put, active on LinkedIn because there's no point in sending an invite to someone who is not active on LinkedIn. So you really have, you have the opportunity to say like, hey, he posted or he's been active in LinkedIn in the last 30 days. So you tick this box. You also tick second degree connection. And then you'll have, in theory, like a quite a small subset. So the goal is really to obtain something like 200 leads, no more. And then what you do next is you grab this filter. You just go to QuickMail. You say import leads from Sales Navigator. You paste this link. And then the cool thing is that it will go into your campaign. It will execute your campaign. And then you could also say every week or every 2 days or every day even, you can re-import this same filter. And because more people accepted your invite, it opens to more second degree connection, which makes it like a kind of like evergreen campaign. I got my campaign, it's working like gangbuster, and I haven't touched it like for a second. It's just amazing. It's like one of the most great experience. The link that needs to happen next is when people don't reply to you on LinkedIn, then it's kind of helpful to also switch and reinforce it with email. The problem I have is we don't really have within QuickMail the ability to automatically enrich for email so that you can switch like, transparently from LinkedIn to email. You just kind of like have to have it. So it's kind of like annoying, but we'll get there at some point. So it's kind of like what's latest and what excites me at the moment.
Sure. So you prefer a campaign where it's blank connection request, message on LinkedIn, reaffirming message via email.
Kind of. So that's kind of a big thing actually. I'm a big believer of a lot of things that are not necessarily intuitive to most of people. For LinkedIn, I'm a big believer in non-empty invites. I'm actually a big believer in a proper connection request that actually mention up front some really cool thing that will make them want to accept the connection request. Once they accept, it's like with email, for example, I'm a big fan of having your email subject about the topic of what you want to talk about, or something simple, 1 or 2 words, 3 max, all lowercase, simple. Like for example, let's say I want to invite you to a podcast. I will just put my email will be like podcast, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to process for the recipient, so it's just gonna see like podcast. We're gonna talk about podcast. If I'm not interested in podcast, I'm not gonna read your email. It doesn't matter what the offer is. So just put podcast. It's upfront. It's great. And if you do the same thing with LinkedIn, then people will then decide to accept or not based on this. And if they accept, they kind of like, it's like a mini contract. They kind of accept you like, okay, I'm going to read your pitch because I'm okay with this type of, this mini contract that we just have together. And so I do the same thing. So with email, with LinkedIn, Hired my VA like that. But it was super simple. I knew a company that was training VAs in the Philippines. I just did a sales navigator filter, figured out people who worked at this company for more than 1 year, and send them like a small text, like saying like, "Hey, looking for a VA. Do you have capacity?" It's just simple as that. Like it's just like a quick connection request. If they say yes, I say, "Hey, great. This is a gig, whatever." Like we start discussing the thing. Again, it's automation, and that's basically how I use outreach constantly every day.
So a
That
lot of
makes
people
sense.
say like don't do the blank message, and then when you send the first message, have it be like a open-ended, generic, general question or something like that. Like I guess kind of is a leading question. You would say be pretty frank about it and just say like say what's on your say that what the topic is that they expect that you're gonna pitch them about. And then you
Yeah,
send them a
pretty
message, a
much.
short one line message, I assume, that just kind of,
Yep.
and then if they don't, then you follow up with an email that says, "Hey, did you get my LinkedIn message?" Or what is
Yeah,
your email?
something along the lines of, "Hey, send you a LinkedIn message. Understand LinkedIn, is a difficult place, or like it's a black hole when it comes to email. When it comes to inbox. I'll shoot you a message here. In 2 words, this is what it's about. Are you in? Are you out? Are you game?" That's basically my type of messages. And again, that's also my style, right? It's not the styles of everyone, and it may not work for some people, and that's okay too. It's just like you're never gonna get like 100% reply rate. What's important is to get the reply from the people you want to work with, or the people you actually want to close. And so, if, for example, I was contacting doctors in Germany, I'll never do the same tactic. And if I was contacting people that are really hard to get on call and so on, then I will do a different strategy. I'll probably do like, a strategy about knowing them first, and generating some relationship before going into an ask, right? But
Yeah,
but there are plenty of difference. The interesting thing here, Christian, is that the biggest lever when it comes to actually getting success with cold outreach is really about the strategy. It's not necessarily everything else is tactics, right? So the strategy could be really different. It could be like instead of reaching out for the VAs, I'm just going to speedball here, but instead of reaching out to the VA directly, I would try to reach out to companies, hiring VAs, or people who have connection with VAs. So I'm actually changing my angle. And if I'm changing my angle, I'm going to have to change my audience. I'm going to have to change my message, but maybe I'll be way more successful with that, right? So instead of going after the end users, maybe I go for the influencers. It's just like, or different angle. Maybe I go in a different person in a company and pitch something else. Maybe I go to the CFO and pitch a cost, reduction. But maybe I go to the head of marketing and I pitch, more visibility. Whatever it is, like those are the things that actually drive, results and move the needle. And of course, the problem is like the tool needs to help you, but the tool is not really the one that actually makes you successful. It's the one that actually prevents you from being successful, right? And that's really how I like to see things. And if the tool doesn't actually help you to deliver your message, that's a problem. But it could be also that your message is so bad no one wants to read them. It doesn't matter what tool you're using, you're not going to get results. You know what I mean? It's like the tool's not the end be all. It should be like a support for your strategy. If your strategy is rubbish, you're not going to get results. Doesn't matter what. So that's
yeah,
basically my thinking. And I prefer to have really small audiences because then you can do and craft something that resonates with people.
yeah. Unfortunately, it's going to get even harder. So if your offer is even remotely rubbish in the coming year, you're going to be screwed.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you could do a few things. Like recently, I give you an example that I've done. Like recently, I'm starting a new business which is called Monster Ops. It's a tool to help your company to get some sort of structure and cadence, whatever. But the point, like, this is not the point of the I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that I'm saying like, how am I on earth am I going to actually reach out to my end users, right? For that, like, I need to contact companies, but it applies to a lot of different companies, a lot of different markets. Okay, cool. I can go vertical by vertical. That's one way. How am I going to pitch them? Well, I'm not quite sure. So I'm thinking, well, how about I talk to people who actually reach out to those companies? Oh, maybe EOS instructors. Okay, cool. Well, that's already a smaller pool. Instead of 60,000 or 60 millions, companies, suddenly I come down to 1,000 people. 1,000 people is a fantastic pool to actually start to do outreach, right? You're expecting 10% reply rates. That's 100 people, 100 calls, or whatever. That should be okay. So I go there, and basically you have a few ways of approaching it. So the way I'm approaching it is the mouse and whisker. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but it's basically
Never heard of it.
sending a small message that could be interpreted both ways, a client or a pitch. So for example, I'll say to you, Christian, I'll say like, hey, are you guys taking clients for Christmas? Are you guys taking clients before Christmas? Or do you have capacity to take clients before Christmas? You don't really know, like, is it a client asking me if we can work together, or is it someone trying to pitch me one thing? Now, this is what I call, this is what is going to give you what I call market propensity. Meaning, like, if people think it's a client, right, and they're not replying, like, they're never going to reply. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
So the highest reply you're going to get is basically through that sort of tactic, like people thinking it's a client. It's going to get you the highest reply. And that's what I call the market propensity. If you're getting 40% reply rate, you're never going to get more than 40% reply rate. Doesn't matter what you're saying. So what I did, but the problem with this approach is that people resent you, right? Because they say like, oh, you fucker, you've been, you make me think you're a client, but in fact you're trying to sell me something, right? You build instant resentment, like it's not gonna work. So the thing I do is like, I sort of like say, like, hey, I'll tell you about my story and why I contact you quickly, but it could sort of like be interpreted both ways. And then if they say like, sure, let's talk, because they may think I'm a client, I say, hey, just before we talk, I want to make ultra sure that, there is no confusion. This is what I want to talk about. Are we still okay to talk? And some people ignore me. Some people say, oh, I don't have the capacity to talk about those things. But some people are just like, yeah, sure, let me help you. Let's go on. And those guys deliver like amazing discussion, because you've been upfront with them. You didn't try to trick them on the call. It was only like to get, foot in the door and starting a conversation with them. So again, that's a different approach, right?
We do a lot of that, like post qualification in other examples, but yeah, it's really nice to.
Someone's coding.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we do a lot of that qualification, and just like just out of curiosity, is this something on your mind right now? If not, let's punt it down the road, right? And people appreciate that. Same type of thing. I don't know. It says I changed the mic. Fantastic. Love it.
The joy of live. Houston, we lost Christian.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, fantastic. So, what's on? We got to wrap up on the hour today. But what is like on the road map for Quick Mail? Obviously, new ops business coming out. Mail as features that and then tell
Christian,
us about
I
the
think
ops company.
there is some connection problem. You've been cutting. I don't really know what you're saying.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
Why don't you tell us what you've got for Quick Mail in the coming year before we wrap up, and a quick spiel about the ops company.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, one thing that we've done recently for QuickMail is about the ability to buy Gmail inboxes automatically pre-configured within 3 to 5 hours. It's already like available in your inbox with specific auto warmer or like private auto warmer, as well as the stealth mode I was talking about, as in like, Google not being able to trace what software I actually used to send emails from this inbox. and everyone's got his different things. I think we want to take it that sort of like the next level next year. I don't necessarily want to say it out loud because there is, probably other people, listening and so on. And we want it still take a few months to actually come up with that. But there's a few possibility on direction we want to go. So we also want to hear from people. So if you guys, have some ideas on what direction you would like against, going against other, other possibility, then, we're definitely happy to listen to that, but we don't have our roadmap really public. We only, there's always a difference between, and again, it's marketing problem, and we're not great at marketing, but we like to talk about things once they're done, not, before they're done. So it's kind of a thing, unfortunately. But if you're, if you contact me and stuff like that, then, and tell me, what you need to have and stuff like that, I could always like tell you like, hey, it may be in the making, or give us an extra month or stuff. So there may be some AI, there may not be, those sort of things.
Love it, man. Love it. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming on. Hope to have you on a couple months so we can talk about what you have come out with as opposed to what's on the roadmap. But love it. If you haven't tested out QuickMail, go give it a shot. It's going to be critically important in the next year to diversify who you're sending from, everything. So appreciate the time, my friend, and we'll talk to you soon. Cool?
Of course. Thanks, Christian. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
y'all.